In San Francisco, we made arrangements for a huge church in downtown San Francisco.
And for the Swami to speak, and only a few people came. Maybe 10 or 15 people came. But Prabhupada spoke completely and fully, explaining everything, as if there were 10,000 people. And afterwards, in the car on the way home, Malati was apologizing to the Swami, saying, well, we advertised, but hardly anyone came. And he said, oh no, didn't you see? Lord Indra was there, Lord Brahma was there, Shiva was there. No matter what crowd, Prabhupada spoke completely and fully. Well, yesterday we spoke about Volume 1 of Chasing Rhinos with the Swami, and I read some stories from early San Francisco and London, and we described what are the most attractive and powerful of Srila Prabhupada's many qualities. First of all, his great boldness and daring, his command for us to take risk, to chase the rhino for Krishna, his courage. And we talked about the magic that surrounds Srila Prabhupada, that surrendering our lives to Krishna means allowing Krishna's magic to work in the world around us. Chasing Rhinos is an attempt to put you on the magic carpet ride with Srila Prabhupada. And we laughed with Srila Prabhupada. We discovered that Krishna consciousness is a jolly adventure. And in October 1970, Srila Prabhupada called 20 of his American and European disciples to join him in India. He called this adventure the World Sankirtan Party. And for the better part of 2.5 years, Srila Prabhupada stormed around India with his mostly Western disciples. Gradually, a few Indian boys and girls joined along the way. And he established the strong ISKCON presence in India that you see today. So Volume 2 of Chasing Rhinos will cover this 2.5-year period. It's written, I've written it, it's being edited, but it's not yet printed. So I thought I would read today some of the excerpts from that second volume. This is Vrindavan, just to catch the flavor of that amazing period in Srila Prabhupada's great adventure story. Okay, I'm going to start reading some passages taken from second volume about India. Prabhupada's energy and vitality seemed to get stronger and stronger with each day in India. He was constantly talking to people. People would come. We never saw him sleep. He would take only a little food. He would encourage us to eat huge amounts, but he took only a little. We were so excited, full of expectation of great things ahead. Of course, there were down periods when we all felt, this is too difficult, India, living like this. I just want to go back where there are dishwashing machines and hot water. But living this close to Prabhupada just made everything so easy and so light. The whole thing was painless because it was so much fun. We didn't have anything. Sure, sometimes we were chauffeured in limos and ate huge banquets, but the next day we'd be packed like sardines in a garlic-breathed train, third class, eating a handful of chickpeas. The jolly mood ensnared us deeper and deeper into Prabhupada's tender net. We could also see the joy that he himself experienced while sporting in this world. We would go to some meeting, and he would be very grave and stern, maybe chastising his own countrymen for allowing Krishna consciousness to fade in the world. And then we'd return to our quarters and sit down there with Srila Prabhupada, and he would recall something funny that happened at the program and break into uproarious laughter. Our original party of 20 started in Bombay. Bombay quickly became my favorite city. Gurdas, who just walked in the door, and Jamuna, they were sent to Delhi and Vrindavan. And others were sent to other cities across India. Srila Prabhupada traveled, he blitzed India. He took us to Indore, Amritsar, and Madras, Allahabad, Surat, Visakhapatnam, Banaras, Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, very quickly, lighting fires everywhere he went, until Bhaktivedanta and his dancing white elephants became the talk of the nation. Every newspaper in India in those days featured stories about Srila Prabhupada. He was like the champion or hero of the nation in that period. In Bombay, Prabhupada would take morning walks. I'll read some passages from the second volume. In Bombay, Prabhupada would take morning walks in the hanging gardens on Malabar Hill, where other prominent gentlemen took their daily stroll. From the moment we'd start up wide stairs to the park, big industrialists, government leaders, the cream of Bombay society would rush to greet him and try to touch his feet. There was a casual imperial cadence to his walks at Hanging Gardens. Prabhupada strutting, shoulders cocked, loose in his hips, like a Lipinzaner purebred, his weight on his heels, feet flicking to the side. Bhaktivedanta Swami was the talk of the town. Another passage from those days in early days in Bombay. As Prabhupada spoke on those golden mornings, the raucous caw of a crow outside, coo, 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 pigeons in the courtyard. We are mesmerized by changing expressions across his golden face, like the play of cumulus and sunlight over a varied landscape. One moment he's from another world so impenetrable to us, self-contained king of all he surveys, and the next moment he's tossing a ball to you in a friendly game of verbal catch, maybe a fastball to see if you can catch it. He might break from describing Krishna's vast cosmic design to a real concern for your upset stomach. Just try a little bicarbonate of soda with 1 spoonful in water. No one has ever seen such depths of personality. One of the most amazing places we went was Allahabad, to the Ard Kumbh Mela in January of 1971 for 1 month. Now here's a story that reflects Srila Prabhupada's awestruck disciples at this marvelous event, our eyes being opened to the real India. We're on a morning walk with Srila Prabhupada to the Sangam. Sadhus fall at Prabhupada's feet, interrupting our march, and Prabhupada laughs and blesses them all. He's enjoying this excursion, showing us the living Bhagavatam, the 33,000 sages gathered at Naimisharanya to hear the truth, the armies massing on Kurukshetra's battlefield right before our eyes in 3D. Crowds thicken as we near the river. We begin to see poor and sick people with little tin pots on the sand before them. Devananda passes out coins to us, and we each put a handful in our bead bags. Prabhupada motions us to put a coin in every beggar's pot. What is this? 10 annas? Geez, 1 anna. Let's see. There's 100 annas to a rupee, and a rupee's worth 13 cents. Come on, Hansaduta, make this leper's day. Give him 2 cents. Then we began to see the sadhus, the monks, grouped in denominations by the side of the road, bearing face markings, dress or lack thereof, and symbols of their sect. Their eyes seem far away when coins clink in their battered bowls, each face the gateway to a million ageless tales. As we near the river, the yogis appear, lined up and doing their tricks. What, Madhavisa, did you see that? There's a boy man lying on a wooden plank with 12-foot-long spikes through his torso, his eyes focused on eternity. The wounds are long healed, so it must be a permanent situation. There are more of them. It's a collection of men on spikes. Their handlers stare at us, and we stare back at them, trying to unravel in our minds this testament to sacrifice and resultant power. Is this really worth it? Do these guys really get anything more than just a living from such incredible pain? It's no longer a fairy tale, son. Other yogis are buried in the sand, only an arm showing, with fingernails a foot long wrapping around their wrists. And then we see the levitators, a row of cross-legged men sitting off the ground. One guy's almost 2 feet up. Wait a minute. We glance at Prabhupada. He's marching ahead, looking the other way. Like, come on, let's go, lads. Let's go to the beach. There's a quote from Kausalya Devi. Prabhupada had told us, you must be very careful because these are very powerful yogis here, and that many of them have very powerful siddhis, like they have the power to be able to move between places. He said, you must be very respectful and very careful. Now we're really seeing ancient Vedic India, the land of magic, yogis, and tapasya, voluntary austerities to gain spiritual force. Prabhupada says most of these yogis are bogus, but some are the real thing. A few are hundreds of years old and still appear young and fresh. They gather for the Kumbh Mela, then return to their seclusion to live with tigers. If you made eye contact with one of those 1,000-yard stares, it nearly blew you backwards. Some guys are standing on one leg, the other a shrunken appendage of bone and skin. I thought, wait till George Harrison gets a load of this. I was writing to him weekly letters. But we are subdued by it all, respectful, and we're getting it. Prabhupada has taught us that many austerities are required to get siddhis, yogic powers. But for what purpose? Each yogi has a little pot by the road to collect a few paisa from us as we pass by. They undergo so many hardships, Prabhupada said, just to earn a little money. It is a business. Now, where is the bliss? Where is the joy from such austerity? You only see bliss in the faces of the Krishna bhaktas, an uproarious, noisy pack moving against the throng to the river. The crowd parts as we reach the water's edge. A sea of people are submerged to the waist before us, steam rising from the glacier-borne stream. We look to Prabhupada. What should we do? He says, in 1928, I remember, I was touching the water, and it was so pinching that it was cutting your body. But as soon as you actually get a dip, 1, 2, 3, then you immediately come out, and it is all right. He removes his hood and cap, reaches down, takes a handful of Ganga water, and sprinkles on his bare head. He motions us to go on in. He's had his bath, and it looks like he'll sit this one out. We shed layers of overclothes and put them in a well-guarded pile and timidly look for an opening into the, freezing, shallow water. the Holy Mother of all waters, whose very touch brings liberation and forgiveness of sins, each focused on their own sacred encounter. Other bathers moving slightly to accommodate our huge white bodies, most dipping with their hands, sprinkling Ganga Jal over their heads, some pouring it over with little pots, men in skimpy gumchas, women draped in saris, wet and clinging. The bolder ones dipping under now as we move to thigh deep, hip deep, and then, Americans after all, we dive forward and start swimming out past the bathers, exuberant with cold and laughing out loud to feel the bone-deep blessing, looking back to the bank to see Prabhupada laughing with us. And then Srila Prabhupada brought us to Vrindavan in late November 1971. We'd only heard about this place from Srila Prabhupada. Now we were going to see it with Srila Prabhupada as our guide. Right away, Prabhupada took us sightseeing. Little Saraswati's got a shuddering cough from the cold nights and sleeping rough, but she follows or leads Srila Prabhupada around Vrindavan wherever he goes, sometimes holding his hand. Our first stop was Radha Damodar Temple, the tiny courtyard and rooms where Swamiji sat so many years to design the Hare Krishna movement. Seemed disappointingly small and drab at first, but when we saw the love in Srila Prabhupada's eyes and felt his connection with the place, we began to make the leap. Look behind what you see in Vrindavan, through the layers and deep dimensions where faith will take you to see the Holy of Holies. Was that a flute I heard? How many ecstatic dawns did Rupa Goswami see creep into this courtyard? How many hundred freezing, sweltering nights did Prabhupada crouch by dim candlelight to force our language from the Srimad Bhagavatam? We feel the pangs of Prabhupada's lonely meditations and the rising ironic chuckle in his throat as he wrote in 1958. I am sitting alone in Vrindavan Dham. In this mood, I am getting many realizations. Everyone has abandoned me, seeing me penniless. Wife, relatives, friends, brothers, everyone. This is misery, but it gives me a laugh. I sit alone and laugh. Who will give me news of them and tell me who? All that is left of this family life is a list of names. As Srila Prabhupada's secretary, the cassette recorder and handheld mic were my best friends. They allowed me to walk or sit beside Srila Prabhupada everywhere he went. My excuse was to record every word, as he would point with his cane and say, "This is the Samadhi of Jiva Goswami. And here is where Rupa Goswami wrote his books." Ha! Gesturing with right index finger, poking through his saffron silk bead bag. He looks 50 years younger as he takes the part of some demigod, or a demon, or of Krishna's mom when she looked into her son's mouth and saw the universe, his eyes as big as saucers, telling us the eternal stories of each place we passed. Dead matter coming to life with Srila Prabhupada's fluid animation. We were like his kids, the father taking us back to his own childhood haunts, showing us where this or that actually happened, from tales we had heard by the fireplace and could only imagine before. Skipping forward. But Srila Prabhupada was in a negotiating mood. He returns to his room at Saraf Bhavan, and while his devotees continue sightseeing around Vrindavan, Prabhupada greets a parade of officials, godbrothers, and elevated Brijbasis like Krishnadas Babaji and Gaurachan Goswami. In master salesman mode, Swamiji narrates his accomplishments in the West and asks the assembled luminaries for one thing only: land, land, land. Mr. Kashiram Saraf and his wife Gitabai tell Prabhupada that they have an empty 4-acre piece of land in Raman Reti, and they've considered donating it to a deserving spiritual group. Raman Reti means charming sands, the place where Krishna used to play with his cowherd friends. Sounds great, so we go to look at it. Saraf Bhavan is across from the main post office in the center of Vrindavan, and the Raman Reti land is about 1.5 miles away, out in undeveloped forest and rice paddies, at the junction of Chahatikara Road and the Parikram Path. It's nice, but Prabhupada is so far from town, and these people walk everywhere. Who will come all the way out here? Prabhupada likes this land nonetheless, and he expresses interest, but the offer is not firm, and Prabhupada doesn't want to seem over-anxious. Skipping ahead. Srila Prabhupada is more relaxed and intimate than I have ever seen him. Greeting and preaching, maybe bragging a bit to his old friends, in his quarters, on the street, during meals and massages, yak, 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 in the pleasant winter sun. He's so elegant and graceful, friendly, carefree, wise, practical, and self-confident during this exhibition to his extended family in Vrindavan. What a contrast with Delhi last week, where he was the politician king. Here he is the old friend, the favorite uncle, the patriarch, the worshipable elder of this village. His devotees have never seen this before, but we quickly understand it. Vrindavan dwellers are grounded in magic, and they are accustomed to the miraculous, and they see Prabhupada and his gorgeous Western disciples as the recurrence of an ancient sacred pastime. Prabhupada charmed, he cajoled, he argued from logic. It was a natural progression, from native son to the first worldwide preacher of Vaishnavism, to the visible historical success of his mission. Vrindavan must make room for him. There is a lingering atmosphere of reserve and suspicion among the caste Goswamis in Vrindavan, maybe a tinge of envy. We have been content here for 1,000 years. Our forefathers own this land and culture. Are these followers of yours genuine? Do they qualify to settle down among us? Look how they wander around like loosened gorillas. Will they raise holy hell? After 2 or 3 days, the obvious devotional demeanor of these fresh overseas Krishna devotees, plus Srila Prabhupada's keen arguments and diplomacy, wins out. On the evening of November 29th, 1971, the mayor of Vrindavan, city officials, and priests from the main temples in Vrindavan gathered to salute Srila Prabhupada in a very moving public ceremony. Mayor Vishvambar Goswami, head seva of Radha Brahmana Temple, delivers an address of welcome to the most exalted, unlimitedly decorated Sri Srimad Bhakti-Vedanta Ji Maharaja. Skip ahead. We stayed in Vrindavan a week. Srila Prabhupada reconnected with his roots, charmed the municipal authorities, and in just these few days, he planted the seeds which would very soon become the Krishna Balarama temple. It was far from a done deal, but a large and permanent ISKCON presence in Vrindavan was inevitable. This will happen. There will be land and a great temple built. It will be a struggle all the way, thousands of years of entrenched interests, and the untested abilities of young Westerners would ensure great hardship, but it will happen. The pieces are beginning to fall together. Surat, then Kumbh Mela, now Vrindavan. This is not a fairy tale anymore. Our ancient roots in India are real. Radha Temple, the 6 Goswamis, Samadhis, the sparkling mica sands of Krishna's pastimes. We're seeing them now, feeling them, and we're right at home. Vrindavan belongs to us. Here are just a few more passages I'll read out. I never felt like Prabhupada was an ordinary man. In fact, it was just the opposite. He was so obviously a spiritually empowered resident of another world, so far outside the ordinary that I often felt unworthy to be in his presence, dejected by my own failings and insufficiencies. I often thought, I will never be able to do this, perfect this Krishna conscious process like he has. How can I even aspire to it? But then he would ask, what is your opinion? Or make a funny face. And again, I'd feel like his young old friend, his Charlie McCarthy, a soulmate on this hilarious adventure together. Another passage. As 1971 ends, from the calm eye inside Prabhupada's hurricane, I'm so proud of his vast expansion, his dreams and plans realized in such short time. I'm proud of my godbrothers and sisters, too, so dedicated and effective, so strong in carrying out Srila Prabhupada's schemes. How wonderful is the mysterious personal interference of Krishna for his pure devotee. I'm seeing the world through Prabhupada's eyes. You plan, you point, then ease off to let Krishna spin the action around you. You watch for magic, the hints, the clues. This person, that letter, the butterfly that lands on your finger. Then you risk it all, you jump into Krishna's delightful real-time dream. One remarkable fact is that during the many years that I was by Srila Prabhupada's side, even 24/7 for more than 2 years as his private secretary, I never saw him asleep. One time I thought I would finally see Srila Prabhupada sleeping. Should I tell that story? I'll read it from the book. About an hour after the Madras mail had chugged out of Bombay's Victoria Station, and after 15 or 20 devotees had cleared Prabhupada's first-class AC sleeper cabin to find their own seats in second-class coach, the conductor has appeared and punched our tickets, and the door has been slammed and latched to the noisy corridor. I'm suddenly a little shy and awkward to be alone with Prabhupada for this long journey in such cramped quarters. Sure, I'd been alone with Prabhupada much of the time for the past 7 months, but I always had my own space somewhere, a room or a hallway separate from Prabhupada where I would type or transcribe tapes or read or sleep. But here we are, together in this small cabin, crammed with luggage and boxes of food. He's stuck with me for the next 30 hours. Where do I sit? How do I act? What if I pass wind? First thing Prabhupada does, he starts arranging the gear. Just pull down both beds. One is above the other, folding down from one wall. Now put that box under, then that one. Now take out from suitcase one fresh dhoti, my chadar, the big one, brown. Now fasten the suitcase, put under. Your case, put here, and prasadam, keep there. And in no time, Prabhupada had the little cubicle organized. And then he sat in a fold-down seat by the window, looking forward with the train's progress, watching the countryside flow by, chanting on his beads. You may sit on the bed, he said. It's sort of like traveling with my dad. Skip ahead. When the train stops at stations, Prabhupada slides the window open, taking in the frantic sounds of travelers and hawkers selling snacks. He calls now and then for a coconut dab or roasted chickpeas wrapped in old newspaper, and the sellers are immediately reverent to see a Swami. Female vendors pull saris over their faces. Prabhupada bargains with them to their lowest price as I shove a few crumpled rupee notes or some coins through the window. Hare Krishna, they shout. Even in these remote villages, the Swami is famous. After a red-orange sunset, the windows darken, and Prabhupada asks me to read to him from Krishna book, the story of Krishna and Balarama entering Mathura. I read about young Krishna breaking King Kamsa's bow, exactly as an elephant breaks sugar cane in the field, and watch Srila Prabhupada smile, his eyes closed in pleasure. Then Krishna is wrestling the giant elephant Kuvalayapita, decorated with drops of perspiration and sprinkled with the blood of the elephant, as he rips out and hoists the ivory tusk onto his shoulder in victory. We chat about this and that, and it's growing late. Prabhupada says he will now do some translating work and asks me to bring his books, the dictaphone, and adjust his light. You may go up, top bed, and sleep. Is it all right? I extinguish all but the reading light above his tiny fold-down escritoire, then climb up and spread a chada over my reclined body and, drowsing, watch Srila Prabhupada below. He puts on his glasses, arranges his books, presses buttons on his dictaphone, playing back yesterday's work, and he starts to translate. He speaks slowly and clearly into his microphone, enunciating each word for his faraway editors. Eternal wisdom flows from the ageless author in an uninterrupted, continuous stream. Rail tracks clackety-clack, from a tiny rewind, ding, 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 receding, a deserted crossing, and I fall into sleep. A far-off moan from the locomotive breaks my slumber. The light is out, and I peer over the edge down to Prabhupada's bunk, expecting to see him sleeping. I've never seen him actually sleeping. This may be a first. He's on his side in the starlight, legs drawn up, and just then his right eye opens and stares into mine above with no expression on his face. And his thought pops into my mind. Thought you'd catch me sleeping, huh? In late February 1972, Srila Prabhupada laid the foundation stone at Mayapur with a big ceremony down in a pit. And right after that, on March 4th, he writes this telegram to Kshirodakshai in Vrindavan. This letter, it was a letter. I think I shall be coming to Delhi very soon to settle up our business in Vrindavan. Concerning the Saraf land, I want to sign the documents before going to Bombay within a few days from now. And if there is possibility to lay down the cornerstone there, I can also do that before leaving from India. This will please me very much and give me great relief to know that we have done something solid in Vrindavan before I leave, and the credit is yours. So I am entrusting that you can arrange everything very nicely about getting the deed prepared for the Saraf land, and you may also prepare one nice foundation stone, and we shall hold a public ceremony and lay the foundation stone. Imagine the pressure. No. Sarafs had only mentioned that they might give the land. Fat chance, I'm thinking. Nothing happens. Nothing gets done this fast in India. 4 days later, Prabhupada gets a phone call at Albert Road in Calcutta from Chiradakshai. You can come to Vrindavan. Sarafs have given you the land in Raman Reti. What had happened was, Chiradakshai, feeling the pressure, had confronted Mr. and Mrs. Saraf in Vrindavan, saying, you must decide now. Prabhupada wants to come. The Sarafs agreed to let Radha and Krishna decide. They asked Chiradakshai to write yes and no on 2 slips of paper and put them in a bowl before their household deities and draw one out. Yes was the answer, of course. So on March 10th, Prabhupada and his little team hop a flight from Calcutta to Delhi, and by noon we're in Vrindavan. Gurdas was there, Chiradakshai, Gargamuni, and Jamuna. Not an army of devotees, just the general and a few lieutenants to get the job done quick. Again, we stayed on the 2nd floor at Saraf Bhavan, 6 rooms in a row, opening off a long hallway leading from the stairs at one end. Prabhupada occupied the 3rd room down, and his small staff was quartered in the 4th room. What followed was one of the most amazing and amusing situation comedies ever, called Prabhupada and His 3-Ring Circus. There were 3 major issues to resolve. 1, sign the deed for the Raman Reti property. 2, sign documents granting Prabhupada his rooms at Radha Damodar Temple in perpetuity. And 3, to organize a cornerstone laying ceremony for a new temple on the Raman Reti land. Prabhupada was scarcely settled in his room when the various characters began to arrive, one by one, from central casting. I've written this like it's a screenplay. So you have to imagine now. Quiet on the set. Action. Scene 1, interior, room 3. Prabhupada sitting with Gurdas, Chiradakshai, and Jamuna. Kashiram and Gitabai Saraf, the gentle and pious donors, also seated, are talking warmly with Prabhupada, having worked out with him the final language of the gift deed to Raman Reti. Enter Shyama Devi, gray-haired lady sadhu who has a small following in Vrindavan and London. Prabhupada knows her. She brings with her a retired member of parliament, a local guy, with an old black suit coat over his dhoti, and a policeman. And she points to the Sarafs, Shyama Devi, in Hindi. But you have promised the Raman Reti land to me. Long impassioned argument in Hindi follows. Shyama Devi accusing the Sarafs. Shyama Devi accusing the Sarafs defending. Prabhupada jumps in and in English he requests the newcomers. Srila Prabhupada, you kindly just please step down the hall to room 5. I will join you there in a moment. Shyama Devi exits the room in a furious mood, indicating she is going home. The MP and the cop, apologetic, say they will wait in room 5, and they exit. The Sarafs remain seated, visibly upset by Shyama Devi's intrusion, and Prabhupada placating them. Enter Gaurachand and Madan Mohan Goswamis, hereditary proprietors of Radha Damodar Temple. They have come to demand more money and stricter terms for Prabhupada's lease on the Radha Damodar rooms. Srila Prabhupada knows that an ancient family quarrel prevents these 2 men from speaking to each other, so he says, Srila Prabhupada, please kindly wait for me in rooms 1 and 2, and I will come to see you. Scene 2, interior room 4. No, room 5. Interior room 5. Prabhupada sitting, joking and cajoling with the MP and the policeman, who are also seated. He shouts out, "Shama Sundar!" Enter Shama Sundar, fresh from room 4, standing at attention. Srila Prabhupada, you may type the gift deed now for signing. There will be no further problem. Shama Sundar, yes, Srila Prabhupada, I'll get right on it. And by the way, Dr. Kapoor is here, and your other godbrother, Krishna Das Babaji. He has just showed up from Radhakund. Srila Prabhupada, good. Ask them to wait for me in room 6, last room. Shama Sundar exits. Scene 3, interior hallway. This is a time-lapse shot, where everybody's running back and forth. Prabhupada, Gurdas, and Shama Sundar shuffling between rooms 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, singly or together. Gurdas and Shama Sundar carrying sheaves of documents in both hands. A brief stay in each room, then on to the next. The clock on the wall spins through 2 hours. Scene 4, interior room 3. Prabhupada sitting with Shama Sundar, Jamuna, Shiradakshai, and Gurdas. Shama Sundar, I've typed up the Radha Damodar agreement, Prabhupada, with that new clause, rooms shall not be used for commercial purposes. But the electricity just went down and I can't type it. Srila Prabhupada, Jamuna, you know this. What is it? Calligraphy? You can make the agreement in nice handwriting. Is that all right? Jamuna, yes, Srila Prabhupada. Shama Sundar and Jamuna exit from room 4. Kiradakshai, we shall have to purchase the government tax stamps for both deeds, Swamiji. 165 rupees. Can you give me one check? Srila Prabhupada, government will not take check. Kiradakshai, no, I will cash with my friend, Gurdas. And I will have to go to Mathura, Prabhupada, after you sign with Gorachan to register the deed. Scene 5, interior room 6. Prabhupada sitting with Dr. Kapoor, Krishna Das Babaji, Gurdas, and Shama Sundar. Dr. Kapoor, so you have got how many temples now? Srila Prabhupada, I'm not sure. Gurdas, you have got 92 temples now, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, 92? Dr. Kapoor, you don't even know yourself. And he laughs. All this dialogue is taken from tapes, by the way. Srila Prabhupada, yes, actually, Kapoorji, I do not know how things are going like this. I tell you frankly, I have no credit, but things are going on like this. It is something like, of course I am not comparing exactly, just like Krishna could not understand about his potency, and therefore he became Radharani's feature to understand himself. Prabhupada said that. Of course, this is just a comparison. Things are taking very wonderfully. Just see these boys and girls, how seriously they have taken. Dr. Kapoor, this is just what strikes people. How can these people be so sincere and so earnest? Scene 6, interior room 3. It's later. It's dark outside the windows. Prabhupada sitting with all his Vrindavan disciples, and everyone is laughing. Gurdas, you did it, Prabhupada. Shama Sundar, both deeds are signed. Srila Prabhupada, and tomorrow I shall have to go to Mathura for notarizing? Gurdas, yes, along with the seraphs. We have got one car coming at 10. Srila Prabhupada, Before that, we shall go to Ramanreti and make a plan for the foundation stone ceremony. Fade to scene 7. Exterior, Ramanreti, early morning. Prabhupada walking around open land with all Vrindavan disciples. Gauradas and Shamsundar each have the end of a 10-foot rope. They measure off lengths and widths as Srila Prabhupada describes each building and marks its boundary in the sand with his cane. Srila Prabhupada. This will be the main temple. We shall call it Krishna Balarama Temple. Put one residence building behind, here. Prasadam hall and kitchens are there. And schools should be very large, 100 meters minimum over there. You just dig one pit, just here, same as Mayapur, and we shall install Ananta Shesha day after tomorrow. Is that all right? All. Jai Srila Prabhupada. End. And then here's a quote, famous quote from Gauradas from his book. Prabhupada was like a great ringmaster in a celestial circus, with a dancing bear in one ring, a tightrope act in another, clowns in another, and lions in another. He tamed and charmed us all. And all the documents were drawn up. We got the rooms in Radha Damodar for life. We got the land. Shama Devi couldn't do anything. And Krishnadas Babaji chanted and laughed. It was a wonderful day at Mr. Saraf's place. So here's a final passage, which kind of sums up the whole experience traveling around India with Srila Prabhupada. I got sick during the last week of March, some kind of a fever, and Nanda Kumar takes over my typing chores for a few days. Sweating it out in bed, I think about what's been happening. In less than 1 month, Srila Prabhupada has done the impossible. He's laid the cornerstones for his 3 main temples in India, despite all odds. Naxalite bandits, a near-communist government, floods, cold, heat, lack of money, envious opponents and godbrothers, caste Goswamis, a central government under martial law with strict rationing of construction materials, our shaky legal standing, and only a handful of worn-out devotees. The lands we've acquired are so old, with so many contending proprietors, and so big and in such vital locations. To even think about owning these pieces was almost impossible. We are recent arrivals with very little organization or social standing. And yet, despite all these obstacles, Prabhupada's unrelenting desire to please Krishna has somehow prevailed. He did it. Seeing all this from the inside, writing the letters, making the phone calls, late-night strategy sessions, I was in total awe. This was Superman, beyond anything yet, and he was just getting started. I remembered Prabhupada's purport in Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 7, verse 61. Commenting on Lord Chaitanya's wondrous activities, so relevant now to what we were actually seeing. This is Prabhupada's purport. To draw the attention of common men, sometimes saintly persons, acharyas, and teachers exhibit extraordinary opulences. This is necessary to attract the attention of fools, but a saintly person should not misuse such power for personal sense gratification, like false saints who declare themselves to be God. Even a magician can exhibit extraordinary feats that are not understandable to common men, but this does not mean that the magician is God. It is a most sinful activity. It is a most sinful activity to attract attention by exhibiting mystic powers, and then to utilize this opportunity to declare oneself to be God. A real saintly person never declares himself to be God, but always places himself in the position of a servant of God. For a servant of God, there is no need to exhibit mystic powers, and he does not like to do so. But on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a humble servant of God performs his activities in such a wonderful way that no common man can dare try to act like him. Yet a saintly person never takes credit for such actions, because he knows very well that when wonderful things are done on his behalf by the grace of the Supreme Lord, all credit goes to the master and not to the servant. So I pray that you'll all enjoy this romp through India in Volume 2, if I can ever get the money together to print it. Volume 1 is here now in the back, so I kindly beg you to pick up a copy and enjoy it. It's as close as I can make words come to take you to the living feet of Srila Prabhupada, our most beloved friend. Thank you so much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you.